We are joined now by Mississippi State head football coach Mike Leach. We've had him on the program a couple of times before since he got to Mississippi State. I think the last time we talked, Coach, we were breaking down the Tiger King and whether we thought that Joe Exotic was going to be able to get paroled. And you went down and you kind of became your own Tiger King. Mike the Tiger is the mascot on Baton Rouge, and you guys went down and, my goodness, the SEC CBS Game of the Week. What did you expect, and where did KJ Costello throwing for over 600 yards and 5 touchdowns rank in your expectations? If I had told you, hey, Coach, I think you guys are going to be hot, I think you're going to have incredible success, and KJ Costello is going to throw for over 600 yards and 5 touchdowns, and you're going to beat LSU, would you have believed that that was possible going into the game?
It's funny you mentioned that. They stuck me on a Tiger King meme there, with my face on Joe Exotic, and which I don't know if that's a compliment or not, but anyway, it's Joe Exotic's got a big audience. As far as predicting it, first of all, I thought KJ played well, and he played better than I thought he would, and I thought he would play good. The biggest thing that he did well, he's the same guy every time, even if he turned it over, he would come out swinging the next series and did a good job electrifying and stabilizing our sideline. So I thought, just his composure and kind of presence, I think, was huge for us. As far as predicting we'd beat LSU, this is not a business for particularly rational people. And to be perfectly honest with you, on Sunday night, after we wrap up the last game, I'm not altogether sure we can beat Starkville Junior High, but somewhere around Thursday, I'm pretty sure that, we can beat the Dallas Cowboys. So, it's kind of an evolving thing. I mean, at least in my case, as you focus in, as you break it down, as you start to see the vision, as you get out there and work and kind of get pumped up from the practices and stuff, then it's a fairly dramatic shift, to be perfectly honest.
I know you've been in a lot of winning locker rooms over the years, but 2020 has been, as you know, and everybody out there listening knows, just an absolutely insane year. Did it feel more gratifying to get a win like this in a year like this, given what you've got to go through, what your kids have to go through, the coaching staff, everybody else just to play?
Maybe a little bit today, but in the course of the game, as you're heading up there and doing the whole process, you're kind of too busy for all that, really. I don't want to minimize it or make it not fun, but you're kind of sidetracked,
It's interesting because on one level, emotion's important, right? Emotion is important in so much of life. But also, it seems to me on the sideline that you're a guy who tries to respond to great success or great failure almost with a particular equanimity, right? Like you're very even-tempered on the sideline. Is that by design, or have you always been like that?
I think it's a little of both. I think, first of all, you got to focus and move on to the next play. It's between calling plays. Even if something great happened or something devastating happened, I'm thinking of the next one, thinking of, how do we handle the team? How do we handle the sideline? Do we got to pump them up? Do we got to settle them down? And so some of it's that, but also I do think, and I think emotion's very important for football as far as going out there and being intense and it being very meaningful for you to whip the guy across from you. But also there's got to be a stability to that. There's got to be kind of your fundamentals, your technique, a focus on your job within that intensity, and in some positions it's more important than others to be the same guy every play. I think quarterbacks, it's definitely important. Kickers, it's definitely important. I think offensive line, it's pretty important. But within the context of doing your job, like, running backs, defensive players, where more collisions, more violence, that type of thing. Some of the best ones are a little edgy, but they don't take their eye off of doing their job.
We're talking to Mike Leach, Mississippi State head football coach. Coach, I talked about this earlier in the program. I said there's been a long debate about what you would be capable of with your team and the schemes that you run. And we talked about this, I think, on a long-form conversation that a lot of people loved on the Wins and Losses podcast. And that question has been, and I know you were at Kentucky, and so you had some SEC talent at Kentucky, but it's been, hey, you wanted a high level at Texas Tech. You didn't really have SEC caliber players. You wanted a high level at Washington State. You really didn't have SEC caliber players. Does your offense work no matter what, but maybe even a little bit better with SEC caliber players? That's been a big debate for a long time. What could you do with SEC talent? Do you feel like you're starting to find out?
I think, first of all, I think the more talented players, the better your team has a chance to be. But then, the other thing is sometimes there's a big disparity in resources. And, in other words, like, the difference in our resources at Washington State, whether we won or not, which we beat them most of the time, honestly, but the difference between resources at Washington State and Oregon was pretty extreme, and so if you can, my hope is that we can get talented enough guys here that even if somebody's better than us, it's only a little bit better, and then we can work, focus, energy, coach, play our way through it,
How did you get your team to buy into your scheme and your system so quickly? Because a lot of times you see teams have a lot of, growing pains, for lack of a better term. You go out and get one of the biggest wins in Mississippi State history in your very first week, and you didn't even have spring ball, really, right? I mean, this is kind of unprecedented to have this much success. What do you attribute that to?
Well, we didn't have a lot of spring. We didn't have any spring ball. We did get some off season, and that was cut short. And then I thought we had a pretty focused camp from the standpoint, I guess what made camp tough is you don't have the guys kind of sequestered, living together, all for one for all. And, there's no two-a-days, no, the night meetings, all that other stuff so much because, not that you may not meet at night, but you know how it goes throughout the whole day during a typical camp. Because school was going on. I mean, the day we started football practice was the day that school started here at Mississippi State. And so it was like trying to fit camp in more like a during the season schedule because school had already begun. And so I think there were some challenges there. As coaches, we talked a lot about just being kind of simple and specific about what we were doing. One, because our team didn't know the package. I mean, when you get really strong, the guys at the front of the line can tell the guys at the back of the line what to do and can show them and are good examples for it. But if you're putting something new in, then all that example and all that stuff's got to come from the coaches. And but when walking to and from the locker room, in the locker room, playing video games, they can talk about their assignment, their technique, or, this blitz or this route or something like that. I think it really duplicates your effort. So we didn't have the advantage of that, but we tried to be clear as much as we could, as specific as much as we could. We had quite a few walkthroughs so they could visualize it because the walkthroughs are quicker and less taxing. And then, especially as you get closer to the season, we had longish practices leading up, so more like a camp practice except for long, and they were pretty physical. And but that was the thing, just trying to be as precise and specific. And the other thing that was kind of tough was, as a new coaching staff, you're trying to sort out who can do what. and how you put them in a position to feature their talents and do what they do best. So, there was kind of more evaluation and moving the parts around than you would totally like, but we're excited. We were an excited group, though. We were pretty excited, even with all the distractions. Had some kind of team leadership emerge. Kobe Jones, Errol Thompson, KJ Costello. Those guys, I think, have kind of, in sort of the offensive line as a group, have sort of provided some focus and some, tried to lead by example the best they could and have steadily improved.
How long does it – well, let me go first of all to personnel, because Kylin Hill is a really, really talented running back, and everybody out there knows how many plays he's made. He only carried the ball 7 times, but I would think you made him a lot of money in the NFL, where everybody wants a back who can prove that he can come out of the backfield and catch as well. He had 8 catches for 158 yards, including a long of 75 yards. When did you realize, oh boy, this guy out of the backfield can be special, not just as a runner, but also as a receiver?
Honestly, it was hit and miss in practice, but I thought he, when the lights were on there in the game, I thought he really rose up. I thought he played well, had 190 total yards, which is pretty good no matter who you are. And, he's a guy that can accelerate very quickly. I'm not sure how fast he is exactly. He's faster if somebody's chasing him. I know that. And then, but he accelerates quickly. And then the other thing is, he's a guy that's kind of built for combat. So, he can run through and drive through stuff too. So, but he's a talented guy. And then the other thing, I'd love to hog a bunch of credit for his hands and stuff like that. But the truth of the matter is, Kylin could catch pretty well, when we got here. He had pretty good hands.
We're talking to Mike Leach, Mississippi State head football coach. Huge win over LSU in the first game of the season. When you win a game like that, how long does it take, even though you're pretty stoic on the sideline, how long does it take to come back down after that game? So you win. You do the interview, had the great line about the reason why you had to play LSU was because the Packers and the Chiefs and whoever else, the Patriots, were already scheduled for somebody else. But how long does it take for you to come back down, for lack of a better way? Like, do you sleep that night, or is your adrenaline still rolling so much it's almost impossible?
I don't sleep much, win or lose. It's kind of the whole post-mortem evaluation. Some of it's just you're excited because you won, but then also forcing yourself to focus on what you need to improve on. And, basically I thought we fought really hard. We tried really hard. We were explosive but sloppy. And there's a lot of things we can tighten up. But I stay up, I think about that. So a certain amount of nervous energy. My wife at some point gives up and goes to bed. I stay up some more. I write notes. And then
are you watching film then, or what are you doing? Like when you have that nervous energy, are you going back? Or are you just watching random? Are you on Twitter sending out the pumpkin spice tweet? Like what? Like how do you feel that nervous energy?
That was on the plane. I think I can't remember. I think that was on the plane. I did that, but and then if you lose, it's a constant debrief, evaluation, top to bottom. What did we miss? What could we have done better? Kind of reevaluating the week. If we, what could we have done better to prepare our team better to play? And then, which is obviously more haunting, but and if you play really well and you lose, that's not nearly as haunting as maybe playing, winning, but playing terrible. And, the next week, that's not going to be enough to get it done. So, yeah, there's a certain amount of brooding, pacing, wandering around, going for short walks, shit, I wish I could tell you it was a little more pleasant and exciting than that. But knowing full well, you got to get it packed in because we got to get all the corrections, all the evaluations, whether it's the coaches, the players, the film, all the above. We have to get that done by Sunday night. And then we'll have a Sunday practice, which is helmets and shorts. And we'll begin to introduce the new opponent. But at the end of that Sunday practice, we try to make it clear that previous game's over. And then I try to follow, my own advice and make it over for me too. So, yeah, I'm back to being stoic now, But I did give that a little bit of a breather for probably 20 hours, and then but did not sleep much. But it was, I'd say it was a pretty good night, though.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, so you're a guy who probably thinks about some of this stuff. Communication-wise, you are going to have your first home game at Davis Wade in Mississippi State. The cowbells are going to be loud. People are going to be fired up, wanting to cheer on your team after that big LSU win. You've got masks on in theory too. How much harder is communication? Have you thought about that a little bit? Like, you're not used to the cowbells, which is a totally different sound. Already, if you go to a restaurant and somebody's wearing a mask, it's hard to hear what they say. Have you found there to be
like
communication? That's right,
like
right?
Charlie Brown's teacher the whole time.
That's exactly right. So have you noticed that it's sometimes hard to communicate through the headsets with the masks, and now you got the cowbells and everything else going?
I slip the mask down when I talk in the headphone because what you just described I don't think is consistently possible.
Yeah.
And so, some muffled thing on the face mask, I don't think that's very effective.
Did you see like the Andy Reid face shield? You seem like you might have tried some different. He started to have the fog issue, which is pretty funny in and of itself.
It'd be funny if they had a windshield wiper on that.
Yes, it would be amazing.
No, I just had the mask, but I was talking most of the time, so tried to remember to keep it up. The hardest thing's remembering to, and then there's a certain amount of communication where, you have to look and somebody's got to see your lips move. So we kind of try to keep our distance. But I've always drawn a lot out of conversation with people if I can see them talk. And so it wasn't hard on the headphones. The headphones was pretty clear. The stadium was louder than you would think. So they had, there's a percentage capacity they can go. So they had 25,000 people there. And then they got fake people sitting in the stands, which that's almost like an episode of Twilight Zone, or The Outer Limits or something. And some people like it. I actually think it's kind of creepy, but then I checked out the stadium real thoroughly because it was just a great, iconic stadium. The dorms are gone, which is a shame. I didn't get to reacquaint myself with Mike the Tiger at the end of the tunnel, which I missed that too. But but they do have the traditional H-shaped goalposts. But anyway, it's louder than you think because they pipe in. The PA system is particularly loud. They pipe in kind of crowd noise. So I don't know. It's a little bit more like. But when it comes to the game itself, just total explosions, and you can really hear the hits. But for example, just to give you an idea. So we had to do silent count. It was loud enough you had to do silent count. I don't think it was as loud as LSU usually is, but it was loud enough that not having silent count wasn't even a consideration.
What was the motive behind the pumpkin spice tweet? So did you have that one planned out no matter what happened, or does the pumpkin spice tweet play as well if you lose?
Oh, no, it goes one way. Well, to me, it was about the pumpkin spice tweet. It wasn't about anything beyond that. It was just about the pumpkin spice tweet. Somebody texted it to me, and I can't even remember who. I just thought, all right, this one's interesting, and I put it on there. I wish I could give you a cool backstory, but for all the stuff that they send me, hey, this one's cool enough, and either you make the cut or you don't.
Last question for you. I know you're busy getting ready for Arkansas. You are going to be playing against Nick Saban, coaching against Nick Saban on Halloween, October 31st. Have you ever thought about dressing up on the sideline for a game? And what do you think the psychological value would be, both for your team and what do you think Nick Saban would think if, for instance, he looked across the field and you were dressed as a pirate or, some other choice of a costume to coach against him?
I don't know. I haven't really thought about that. That'd be kind of wild. Nick does seem like the type of guy that would really get into some costume play, though. Before I forget, hey, what happened? What was the deal with Malzahn dressing like Pat Dye? I saw that on TV, but I never got to hear I didn't get to hear the punchline.
Well, I think it was just that Pat Dye had died in the off season, and so they decided they were paying homage to Pat Dye. So it was he was dressing like Pat Dye did when he was the coach at Auburn.
Oh wow! I recognized it immediately too. There was no
way to miss it.
It was simple but real specific.
I mean, I'm just loving the idea of you walking across for the pregame handshake, just dressed as a pirate, and what that would do to Nick Saban, right? Like I'm envisioning Saban just having no idea how to comprehend this.
That would be kind of funny.
Wouldn't that be hysterical to see what Saban would think? I mean, if you're 4-0 with Mississippi State and everybody's talking about what a huge game it is, and you're trying to show your team, hey, we're going to go out and have some fun, we're going to play loose, and you walked out with a costume dressed as you called the entire game as a pirate. I just think like you had an eye patch, maybe a fake parrot on the shoulder or something. I think you really would get into Saban's head. I think he'd be like staring across, looking at you and have no idea what you were going to do from one play to the next.
I think that parrot would get knocked off pretty quick because one of those guys slapping you on the back or bumping into people. But, it'd be something to think about if I thought my coaches or players would take me seriously at all. The other hurdle
is there a rule against it? I mean, do you know if there's a rule against a coach dressing up for Halloween to coach?
I don't know if there is or not, but that occurred to me as you mentioned it. And then the other thing was, by game time, I wouldn't say a totally uptight group, but we're kind of a wound-up group, us coaches. You get to that point, and I don't know. It would be pretty hilarious. So I got to say, if I was a fan, it'd be fantastic, and I'd root for it every time. Especially if there's a deal where.
What if they made that a rule? What if the rule was that you have to dress up for Halloween? Yeah, like
like throwback, you have to dress up.
Yeah, like throwback, everybody wears, the normal Thursday, throwback Thursday, you put up an old photo on Twitter or whatever else. But if ever, like we have a Halloween party every year, and my wife loves it, and we get the house all decked out, and everybody that comes to the Halloween party has to be in a costume. I don't want, you don't want to be the only person dressed up at a Halloween costume, but it's also kind of killing the vibe if you're the only people who aren't dressed up at the Halloween costume, right? So you have to come dressed. That would be amazing because Halloween's on a Saturday if they said, okay, every SEC football coach has to wear a costume this year.
Hey, what have been some of your costumes?
So last year, did you watch Game of Thrones?
Yeah.
So I was Jon Snow, and my wife was Daenerys Targaryen, and, spoiler alert, we were dressed up as the final episode where the way that their relationship ends. So my wife had like a pallor on her face, powder. We were, if you remember old school wrestling the last couple of years, we were Macho Man and Miss Elizabeth for old school wrestlers. She was obviously Miss Elizabeth, and I was the Macho Man. And so we tried to do couple, husband and wife costumes that would be connected. And by we, I mean my wife decides what we're going to be, and then she procures the costumes, and I just put on whatever she wants me to wear, right? I'm not really the decision maker, but she's got good, sort of costume taste to figure out what makes sense for us.
The first guy I would call, and he could go into business doing this. The first guy I would call is Pat Knight. Pat Knight, Bobby Knight's son, that used to coach it. He's a scout for the
Texas
Pacers
Tech
now, I think.
Yeah.
So he loves Halloween. As a matter of fact, he had a hand in he and Bobby giving me that stand-up pirate in my office. And but he's good with costumes too, and knows all the newest stuff. Like I guarantee you, he's Halloween shopping right now, finding some new stuff, and some new costumes, some new like gadgets, technology. He would be my first call, no question. I'd get Pat Knight right in the middle of it, and then I would probably get a staff member because on one hand you don't want to be outdone, but so you want kind of a cool costume.
Yeah.
But you want to fit a theme kind of.
What if you went as Nick Saban? You could really get into his head if on Halloween you dressed up as Nick Saban.
Hey, some kid one time dressed up like me. It was a kid. Dressed up like me when I was at Tech, and I saw it on like Twitter or something, and it was really good. He did a good job. Okay, the best ever that I've seen. And Kansas State would do stuff like this. So when you play Kansas State, Manhattan, Kansas, there's only one place to stay, and it's like a Holiday Inn Express. Okay, that's the only place you can stay. So you go in there, and then strategically, we played them around Halloween. Strategically, they placed a meeting room, or you have the meeting rooms, right? Okay, so the ballroom right next to the meeting rooms is a frat sorority costume party. And it's a frat sorority costume party. Anything to make as big a distraction as they could.
Yes.
And the very notion that there's anything innocent about it, in my mind, is ridiculous.
Right.
Okay, so this guy was dressed like Bill Snyder. And, I mean, the hair was perfect. Had the hair colored white. And, and Bill's got kind of distinctive teeth. I don't know how the kid did it, but he made his teeth like Bill Snyder. Had the sweater, perfect sweater. Had the notebook, the glasses. And then the kicker, because he long before, you can get them now, sort of, but, Nike Cortezes for decades were every kid's favorite. Either Nike Cortezes or the Adidas, with the three stripes, which probably survived nuclear war.
Yes.
Okay. And then, and if you couldn't get those, or your parents wouldn't get you those, you'd wear Converse All-Stars. Okay. But, so Nike Cortezes. And then we went like 30 years where there weren't any Nike Cortezes. And yet Bill Snyder, and you'd see him on film, and they jump out at you too. Bill Snyder was always in Nike Cortezes, always had them. And from what I understand now, and this is probably legend that's evolved over the years, I guarantee you spawned by jealousy, like with people like me who would desperately love a pair of Nike Cortezes, but they're so hard to get. And you can sort of get them now. Okay, but then, no way. You'd be lucky to even find Nike Cortezes, period. Okay, but Bill always had them. So then this guy had his shoes and even had the Nike Cortez fixed up so they looked like Nike Cortezes.
How do you think he got the shoes?
Okay, so what I've heard, Kansas State was always a Nike school, and so I don't know. He called. I guess he got a hold of Nike somehow, And they go to the back room, and I don't know if they special made them. But it sounds like they found a bunch of boxes of those things because they also have a purple stripe, like Kansas State.
Yeah.
And so he just got piles of them. I mean, it sounds like he's got, and they claim, I mean, his former assistants claim he's got boxes of those things. And if he wears out one, he goes to the closet and gets another. Kind of like if you go up to Schroeder's piano and you wreck the bust of Beethoven, he's got a closet of them,
Coach Leach, we will be watching against Arkansas. Congratulations on a heck of a debut with Mississippi State. And I'm telling you, think about the pirate costume to go against Nick Saban. I just tossing it out there. Think about maybe get a rule regulation and look into it. But I think it might psychologically throw him off his game.
That'd be good because any help we can get for sure.
I appreciate it, my man. We'll talk to you again soon. Good luck this weekend. Good luck this weekend. Good luck this weekend.